Well, the woodworker is far from becoming a relic of a past era. Despite our vanishing forests and the pressure of modern life, woodworking is experiencing something of a resurgence. And the Timber and Working with Wood show, bit of a mouthful, takes place in Sydney this weekend, and there's demonstrations and also a range of timbers from all over Australia, enough to satisfy any creative urge. And with me is bush craftsman and educator Stan Seglinski, and he's from Ballynudgel. G'day, Stan.
G'day, Michael.
Where's Ballynudgel?
Metropolitan Ballynudgel. It's the very northern end of Byron Shire, far northern New South Wales, 20 minutes from the border, Queensland border.
It must be one of the best names in Australia, Ballynudgel.
Billy Nudgel.
Billy
It's
Nudgel.
a good name.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
So, all right, well, you run the Ballynudgel Woodworking Company, and you've made a bit of a name for yourself, as the Shingle Man.
Yeah. Nolan and I started off about 32 years ago, hand-splitting shingles for National Trust and restoration jobs Australia-wide, and Norfolk Island, New Zealand. All hand-split and traditional.
And Stan, did someone have to teach you to do this, or is it something you worked out for yourself?
When Nolan first gave birth to our children, we had some problems with Nolan's health, and I decided I'd have to work for myself. And so I started cutting firewood and working in the bush, and one day somebody asked me for posts and poles. Yeah, no problem. And then one day somebody said, could you split me some shingles? And because I knew they came from trees and I was working with trees every day, I said yes. And so then I went down to Timbertown, and there was an old guy, Stan Barlow, and by the time I went down there to visit him and watch him, I'd read every book I could find, which wasn't many, and so technically I knew what to do, and I was familiar with all the tools. And anyway, I said to Nolan, you take the kids and have a look around there, and I'm going to watch this guy for the day. And people from the crowd were asking him questions that he couldn't answer, technical sort of questions, and I said to him, do you mind if I answer? And I told somebody about radial shrinkage and somebody else about longitudinal shrinkage. And after a while he looked at me and said, are you going to set up a shingle business when you leave here? And I said, yeah, I am actually. And I felt embarrassed that I didn't actually tell him to begin with. And he said, if I hear you ever get good at it, I'll send you plenty of work. And a few years later we started getting a heap of work from Timbertown, and it just sort of went from there.
So you did get good at it. So that's good. So you mastered the theory before you got into the practical side of it.
Well, I want to know. It's like anything. If you want to make a plate, you want to find out what a plate is and how it works, the dynamics, whatever. And with woodwork, it's good to understand, like all the aspects. Mum and Dad, from when I was young, they come from Poland. From real young, Mum and Dad taught me all sorts of skills and stuff, and I was very, very good with my hands from 4 years old onwards that I can remember. And so with shingles I decided I'd find out a bit about it before I went any further, and so then it was just a matter of hand-eye coordination, understanding, timber and cubic densities, and there's a lot in it actually. Shingles just look like a stupid little bit of wood.
They do. I realise I've underestimated shingles.
Yeah, there's so much to them, quarter sawn, split on the quarter, split on the back, the pitch of the roof, the perps, the fixings.
What are the perps?
Perpendicular spaces between the shingles on the individual courses. Shingles or shakes, they should be put on the roof like scales on a fish, individual to each other, so they can expand and contract with moisture loss or ingress. And there's a lot in them, but when they're done properly, they're a magnificent roof, really low. The gross energy requirement to produce one is minuscule compared with other forms of roofing.
Yeah.
You can grow the trees like growing broccoli, Trees are amazing. They're a crop. And so anyway...
And Stan, can I just ask you, when did we start using shingles as roofs? I mean, they're a 19th century thing, aren't they?
Well, in Australia, when Captain Cook and the boys come over here, they probably had some canvas, and they would have made their humpies and whatever using canvas to begin with. And then, they would have then discovered very quickly bark roofs, slabs of bark. And then as they were working, some of the criminals or convicts, whatever they were called, they probably said, hey, in Europe we used to do this, and they started splitting shingles. So they were, from first settlement, they would have been started to be used. And then one day someone invented roofing iron, and so shingles sort of went out of fashion, and roof and iron came in. The same timber they were splitting shingles from, the favoured species, where they were available. Well, actually, they were available on the eastern seaboard where Australia was first settled. But it was Casuarina torullosa, rose she oak or forest oak. Anyway, when shingles went out of fashion, all the bakeries that were establishing themselves and places where they needed fuel wood, they would have kept using it for those purposes because it split so well. And but they've sort of gone in and out of fashion in a way. But the houses that are architecturally designed, or some of them that have already been built with them, that's National Trust requires that that they be that they be shingled again if they ever need replacement.
Stan, I get the feeling you could talk about shingles all day. That's only question one on my list. You could just go on about this for hours.
My sister reckons timber's like a catalyst for me, and when I start talking about timber, mate, it'll just go forever.
This is Bush Telegraph on ABC Radio National, and we're talking to Stan Sedlinski, who's getting ready for the Timber and Working with Wood show, which takes place in Sydney this weekend. Tell us about the other things that you make, Stan.
When the baby comes off the breast and is going on to solids, their gums are generally getting pretty irritated. Anyway, a few years ago I designed a beautiful, maybe it's funny to talk about your own self like this, but I designed and made this beautiful, beautiful baby spoon that they can feed themselves with, and they can also use it to massage their gums. And all the mums and the babies I've given spoons to or sold them to, they absolutely reckon they're the best. And then to the other far of the extreme, I make coffins. And so I make everything from the cradle to the grave and in between. We've got a couple of mobile sawmills. We salvage our own timber. We, cut our own timber. We stick it out, process it, and then we design and manufacture all in-house. But, furniture, we've got a beautiful range of beautifully crafted tables here at the show. But
well, I've seen some a couple of tables that you've made on the internet, and a very beautiful Jarrah table you've made. It's beautifully finished. So these timbers that you're using, where do you get them from? They're salvaged, are they?
Yeah, look, I travelled one day 13 hours to get a big... it was an English elm full of bird's eye at a place called Armidale, and to go get this one particular tree was a 13-hour journey there and back, and we got about 13 tonne of timber out of the one tree that got broken in a big storm. But trees that are put down in road construction, property development, sometimes storms come, whatever. We're basically salvaging trees that were going to be chipped or used as, cut up into firewood or landfill or something. But we travel quite a distance.
And when you're cutting a big tree, for planks and so on, do you use traditional methods? I mean, are you across the old, cross-cut sawing business?
No, not really. Even though I use cross-cut saws regularly, salvage timber. Look, I'll just explain one little thing.
Yep.
Today, you can go into timber merchants, and they've got timber for sale, and it's done with commercial logging practices and commercial milling practices, and the prices say X. If a person went in and produced timber with very, very traditional methods, cross-cut saws or gang saws or pit saw or whatever, the price would be sort of 4 times X or 10 times X. And so in some applications, some jobs we actually split timber, but for general purpose furniture and stuff, we tend to use a mobile sawmilling system. We've got 3 different sawmills: bandsaw, a slabbing saw, and a circular saw. But we use whatever system somebody wants. If somebody, say, wanted to make the most beautiful violins or guitars, there's a luthier in Sydney, Gerard Gallay, makes beautiful, beautiful instruments, and he'd tell anybody that the finest timber on the planet, which Stradivarius would have used for his violins, was split first, sawn second. And split timber, or cleft timber as it's known, or riven timber, that's at least 10 times stronger than sawn timber the same sectional size. The finest cricket bats in the world are split or riven, and the finest timber you'll get will be split.
And so, Stan, why is that? What does splitting give to the timber that cutting mucks up?
Anybody that was naughty in the olden days might have got a smack on the bum with a spoon, a wooden spoon that was in the second drawer of the kitchen cupboard.
Oh, I got smacked on the back of the legs with a wooden spoon, and Mum broke the spoon, and she never smacked me again.
You'd be bolting out of the door as Mum's going for the jug cord. But that was called grain runoff, and because trees aren't always perfectly straight, and yet the sawmill is designed to cut perfectly straight, if the grain wanders, the saw blade keeps going straight across. And so when you get this grain runoff, or where the grain's not actually perfectly true and square to the face, longitudinally and radially, you get this thing called grain runoff. Sometimes you might have an axe, and you'll go to split a piece of firewood and the handle might break, and it's because of grain runoff. The spoon in the second drawer of the kitchen cupboard breaking on impact in the olden days, because we don't do that today, but in the olden days they were made on copy lathes, and the copy lathe had no heart and soul, and it didn't understand which way the grain was running, and it'd just make spoons. And unfortunately, somewhere when the porridge was a bit stiff or the Johnny was too naughty, the handle would break.
That's right. We know that story very well. Yeah. Now, so do you have a favourite timber? Is there one particular tree that lights up your soul?
No, they're all dead. Look, somebody once said to me, such and such a timber, white gum, Dunny's white gum, it's useless, or scribbly gum, it's useless. And I started thinking, there's no such thing as a bloody useless timber. They're all fantastic. Some timber was... In society today, we got doctors, lawyers, we got street sweepers, we got boilermakers, cabinet makers. Well, trees have got all different sort of professions too. Some timber is amazing to be used for bearings on propeller shafts in big boats or in industry. And today, when we think about all the metals we got and stuff, and somebody says, oh, look, you make the best bearing in the world out of timber, it sort of makes you think, there's a bit primitive in it. But some timber is awesome for bee boxes, like native hoop pine, because it doesn't taint the flavour of the honey. Cooking spoons, they'd be made out of something that doesn't change the flavour. Cricket bats are made from willow. There's a list that goes on and on and on of all different timbers, what they can be used for. And it just depends what you're doing. Yeah. One of my favourites, to be honest, though, is camphor laurel. It's declared a noxious weed in the Richmond Shire and up north where I come from. It was imported from Asia in about the 1800s, I think, to be used as shade trees in government schools. And the seeds had a high viability. And so the birds would eat the fruit, go and land on a farmer's fence somewhere, and when birds sit on the fence, they normally relax and they poop out a little seed or two, and next thing you know, these trees started spreading. But the timber in that is just vibrant reds and yellows and brown and black swirls, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing timber.
And Stan, there's some pretty special timbers on show from Western Australia at the Wood Show, I gather.
Yeah, they got Marri, Jarrah, Carry, burls, great big burls, beautiful slabs. Western Australia is it's a interesting place. Most of the exquisite timbers that grow over there grow in sand, and it gives. Well, anyway, those timbers are just. There's only one place on the planet they grow, and that's WA. And there's a company here with some beautiful, beautiful Jarrah slabs. They're very ancient slabs too. They're very, very old. The colour is absolutely stunning. They got beautiful big carry burls, big enough to make dining room tables or whatever. They got beautiful stuff.
And I gather there's going to be some timber from elsewhere, some Queen Ebony from the Solomons.
Yeah, young lad. Well, I'm 55, so anyway, this guy's about 30 or something.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic fella.
This is Brian Christie, is it?
Yeah, Brian Christie is a lovely, lovely human being. He, with his family property over there, he's ethically salvaging Queen Ebony from the Solomons, and he's bringing it over here, using it for real special uses, end uses, like bagpipe flutes and music, fretboards for guitars. bridges for guitars, furniture.
So it's a lovely black timber, is it?
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful, exquisite chocolate black. And he's got some beautiful stuff. John Sutcliffe from Tasmania, he's having an auction here this weekend with hewn pine that's salvaged out of rivers and off the forest floor. Some of the most exquisite piece of hewn pine in Australia, in fact, in the world, because the only place it grows is one specific spot in Tasmania. The very, very finest hewn pine in the whole world is going to be an auction on Saturday at 2 o'clock. And
yeah, look, it sounds fantastic. So, Stan, you're at the show. People in Sydney who want to go to the show can come there and meet you, can they?
Yeah, look, if somebody wants to come and see me split a beautiful cricket bat and hand hew it in front of their eyes, or if somebody'd like to have a go on an old-fashioned cross-cut saw, I've got cross-cut saw racing happening all weekend for mums, dads, kids. I've got prizes for anybody. People would be happy just to have a go as it is. But anyway, a lot of the companies have been very generous and they've given me lots of prizes to give to people who have a go on the saw.
Well, Stan, it sounds absolutely fantastic. Do have a great weekend, and thanks for catching up with us here at Bush Telegraph.
Yeah, no, thanks. I hope the listeners enjoyed it, and if anybody please come and see me, say hello. And
they will, Stan. Good on you. Thanks so much, mate. That's Stan Siglinski, and you can see him showcasing his skills this weekend at the Timber and Working with Wood show, and that's at the Moore Park Entertainment Precinct in Sydney. And this is Bush Telegraph on ABC Radio National.